What if the greatest Avenger never truly died, but simply changed faces across the multiverse? What if every so-called accident, every war, every timeline split was guided by one hidden mind? Today, the mask shatters, and the truth behind doom, time, and destiny erupts right before your eyes. Begin now. Long before branches fractured and destinies collided, a single intelligence may have been rewriting reality from the shadows. Not Kang, not fate, not chaos, but a fallen genius reborn as something colder. The clues were scattered from metal hands to broken timelines, hidden in plain sight all along for years. In Loki, we learned the sacred timeline was not a miracle, but a prison. The Time Variance Authority hunted variants to protect one reality. At the center stood a tired architect, the conqueror called he who remains the final survivor of an ancient multiversal war of endless versions of himself. According to TVA doctrine, the multiverse once burned under infinite wars between variants of Kang the Conqueror. One version survived, erased the rest, and sculpted a single flow of time. That sacred timeline became Earth 616, protected by pruning, lies, and sacrificial destinies written for heroes who never chose their paths. He grew bored of eternity and set a design so perfect it looked like chance. From a billionaire in a cave forging his first suit to a mad titan chasing stones, every victory and failure nudged reality toward one destined moment inside a citadel beyond time where the puppet waited. That moment began an endgame when a defeated god slipped through human hands and vanished in blue light. The fall down Stark Tower, the skidding cube, the desperate grab in Mongolia sands, all leading a trickster exactly where the script required him to arrive at the end of all things. At the end of time, words became weapons and choice became a blade. Kill the architect and unleash chaos, or replace him and preserve order. The god chose murder, timelines shattered like glass, and the illusion of control dissolved into infinite branching realities that no cage could ever contain again. When time itself rejected him, he learned to fall through moments like staircases. With every slip, he mastered causality, choice, and consequence, until he no longer chased a throne but became one. Threads twisted into a living tree, roots drinking from endless possible futures, holding every timeline in trembling balance. Freedom came with a terrible cost. When universes grow too close, their walls collapse and both scream into annihilation. Incursions are not explosions of fire, but of existence itself, reality eating reality. The multiverse is not eternal, but fragile glass held together by chance already cracking under invisible cosmic pressure. And this is where the shadow behind the shadow emerges, DoctorDoom, not as a monarch of Latveria, but as a twisted echo of genius. The theory dares to suggest his face is the one we trusted most, reborn through multiversal tragedy, born from one impossible mistake across broken time. That face belongs to Tony Stark, not our fallen hero, but a variant who failed where ours sacrificed everything. Imagine a world where love did not survive illness, where a desperate inventor built a bridge across realities to rescue what fate already claimed and shattered his soul in the process. In the comics, Doom's metal mask hides a face burned by his own ambition, scarred when forbidden science backfired. Translate that to a Stark variant and the image becomes terrifyingly personal. A reactor misfires across dimensions, flesh melts, and the hero inside calcifies into tyranny, birthing a ruler of iron. He does not crave chaos for amusement, but order through annihilation. If incursions are inevitable so long as many worlds exist, then the logic becomes cruelly simple. Reduce infinity to one. Erase every other universe and leave behind a single, perfectly isolated realm to govern forever under one unchallenged will. Beneath the savior complex lives the same ego that once announced a name to the world. This variant still believes reality only survives when he holds the tools. In his mind, billions dying is acceptable if one perfect world remains, a monument to his unmatched intellect and wounded heart forever. It explains the visions of falling cities, the alien shapes sketched without understanding, the nightmares that never belonged to a single timeline. Stark minds may be thin at the walls of reality, dreaming of other lives, other deaths, other victories, bleeding through the veil of sleep and inspiration into waking. In old stories, Doom commands a time platform that bends centuries like wire. Kang's empire of chronal engines may not be original invention at all, but inherited technology, stolen knowledge passed down through blood and paradox. A tyrant born from the work of another tyrant, separated by eons yet linked. Look back at the fracture points of history and a pattern sharpens. From a sentient machine whispering extinction in a red digital womb to heroes tearing themselves apart over control, the dominoes fell with unnatural precision. Ultron, Sokovia, the Accords, the airport war, all pressures shaping a single, obedient future. Quantum tunnels cracked open beneath suburban homes, shrinking men into paradox and back again. Each experiment with the impossible widened the vocabulary of time manipulation. From vanishing in light to ruling at the end of existence, the journey looks organic, yet every step conveniently fed the same unseen master hand. The most shocking reversal in this theory is cruelly simple. The so-called ruler at the Citadel was never the king on the board. He was the mask, the decoy, the administrator left to manage cages. Behind him stood the exiled inventor turned god, letting another villain take the blame forever. When the god of stories reshaped time into living branches, he unknowingly defied the very philosophy that drives Doom. One sought infinite choice, the other demands absolute control. The tree of life grows wild and unscripted, while the iron world demands pruning until only a single, obedient timeline survives unchallenged. With every new hero pulled from another world, with every refugee universe colliding into ours, the clock accelerates. Incursions are not distant prophecies anymore, they are inevitable physics. Two skies cannot occupy the same existence, and when they try, one must die so the other can breathe inside collapsing reality. All of this coils toward a title that sounds less like a movie and more like a verdict: Avengers Doomsday. Not a war for power, but a trial for existence itself. When that name arrives on the screen, it will not promise victory, only survival purchased at an impossible price. To enforce his final solution, Doom requires power on a cosmic scale. First, the cube that bends space like fabric, hidden within TVA vaults and guarded by stolen timelines. Second, the devourer of worlds himself, Galactus, whose hunger fuels suns and whose death could ignite creation for one last forging. But raw energy is not enough to rewrite reality into a new god's image. He needs a mind that can unthread causality with a thought. Wanda Maximoff. Through forbidden pages of the Darkhold, whispers cross universes, dressing manipulation as comfort, grief as destiny, and corruption as love until power obeys. He is not merely an engineer of metal, but a scholar of sorcery, a fusion of circuitry and spell. By studying witchcraft across dead realities, he learns how trauma bends the strongest minds. Night after night, visions arrive uninvited, shaping a savior into a weapon without her ever seeing hand. And then there is the spell over New York that cracked the sky like glass in Spider-Man: No Way Home. A ritual designed to pull in those who knew Peter Parker. One man certainly knew him well, mentored him, fought beside him, and died for him there, in one past. If a scarred variant of Stark stood on another world, watching that chaos ripple outward, the irony becomes unbearable. The face behind the iron once inspired hope across continents. Now imagine that same intellect hidden behind another mask, studying young heroes not to guide them, but to measure their usefulness. The inevitable crisis is not a clash of fists, but a civil war of conscience. When two universes crash and only one can survive, who chooses which billions vanish? The arithmetic of survival becomes a courtroom with no righteous verdict. Heroes will be forced to pick between strangers and families. In one brutal possibility, that moral fracture ignites a war between worlds. Mutants defending a doomed reality clash against Earth's mightiest icons defending their own. Sky against sky, power against power, history against survival. While the battlefield consumes the attention of gods and soldiers alike, another player will move unseen. As champions bleed for principles, Doom executes logistics. Energy siphoned, vaults emptied, secrets harvested. While heroes measure victory in fallen enemies, he measures it in units of stolen power. Every clash funds his final construction. Every sacrifice on the battlefield buys him another second closer to absolute dominion over all. From the ashes of collapsing universes, a single artificial heaven will rise, stitched together from dead realities, ruled by one will. The comics named it Battleworld, a planet of stolen histories and enslaved gods. Here, Doom finally achieves what no conqueror ever could, a universe that cannot fight back again. The cruelty of the concept is exquisite. A man who once bled to save strangers now engineers strangers' extinction to save himself. The same hands that once snapped trembling fingers around a shield now tighten around entire galaxies. Sacrifice is replaced by certainty, and hope becomes resource to be spent. All the signals align backward like constellations turned into equations. The machine that wanted to purify Earth, the treaty that broke the Avengers, the quantum doors that taught humans to trespass across moments, the God who learned to hold eternity in his hands. Each thread leads not to chance, design. The tragedy cuts deeper because the villain wears the ghost of a hero we loved. Every sneer echoes a former smile. Every act of cruelty is sharpened by the memory of sacrifice. The multiverse does not just pit worlds against worlds, but past against present, and memory against monstrous transformation. With the sacred timeline fractured and the TVA stripped of absolute authority, the walls of the prison crumble. What was once monitored becomes wild territory. Doom thrives in lawless systems where variables multiply faster than consequences. Chaos becomes camouflage. In the riot of infinite possibilities, his steady hand moves unseen. In the end, the multiverse becomes a chessboard between two absolutes. One believes freedom is worth infinite destruction. The other believes destruction is worth perfect order. Between a living tree of stories and a dead world of iron, existence itself is the contested prize, and no victory leaves clean hands. Picture a sky with no stars because no other worlds remain. Picture soldiers who never rebel because rebellion was erased at the concept stage. Picture a ruler who finally sleeps without dreaming of alternate failures because he murdered the possibility of different outcomes. That is not peace. That is embalmed. Yet stories are stubborn things, and heroes are definitions written against inevitability. Even a god of order can miscalculate the irrational power of choice. In broken alliances, in impossible loyalties, in enemies who refuse to become statistics, the multiverse hides weapons more dangerous than any stolen energy source alone waiting. The great irony of every tyrant is the same blind spot. They measure power in armies, in machines, in gods chained to thrones. They rarely measure the quiet refusal of ordinary souls to accept a written ending. That refusal toppled kings, shattered empires, and may yet tear cracks through even. In this theory, Doom is not the opposite of Stark, but his darkest proof. Same brilliance, same will, same refusal to bow to limitation, turned inward until salvation curdles into domination. The armor did not change the man, it revealed the destination of a path where intelligence outruns compassion entirely. For the young hero who lost his mentor, this revelation would be a wound that never closes. To face the same eyes that once praised him now calculating his extinction would be cruelty beyond fists. The multiverse does not merely remix villains, it weaponizes memory, forcing children of heroes to. No army in history has ever marched against a threat like this. Not a conqueror seeking land, but a god seeking deletion. The Avengers were built to stop invasions, not erasures. Strategy itself becomes suspect when the enemy's victory condition is not defeat, but absence, the removal of possibility from. Energy builds the engine, but will shapes the destination. Without Wanda, Doom can destroy worlds but not author a new one. Her chaos does not merely bend reality, it rewrites rules as if they never existed. In her he sees not a weapon, but pen capable of drafting a universe. Imagine the vault doors of the TVA sliding open in sterile silence, timelines screaming within crystalline cages. A gloved hand reaches not with urgency, but with certainty, as if retrieving property long promised. Space folds, guards freeze between seconds, and the cube of worlds vanishes into calculated darkness without trace. Across shattered stars, a giant stirs with hunger older than memory itself. Galactus does not fight for cruelty or love, only for survival written at cosmic scale. Doom approaches not as prey, but as rival, offering theft instead of tribute. When world eaters clash, collateral is counted in galaxies and terror. The battle for the multiverse may hinge not on armies, but on one broken heart. Wanda stands between becoming a cage builder and a key breaker. Doom offers purpose shaped by grief, a world where loss never happened because it was edited out of history. Refusing that offer demands a strength spells. In the final collision, there will be no clean victory splash across banners. If Doom falls, the multiverse bleeds but breathes. If he rises, perfection becomes a coffin. Every hero who charges into that storm carries not just weapons, but the accumulated weight of every timeline that still dares exist. So when you rewatch those familiar scenes, the Cave of Terror, the crack in the sky over Manhattan, the throne of timelines glowing with unbearable light, consider the possibility that another presence was always standing just outside the frame, not guiding out of mercy, but manipulating out of necessity born. If this theory proves even partially true, the multiverse has not been spiraling toward random collapse, but marching toward a calculated apocalypse. Doom is not coming from the future. He has been walking through the past, wearing a familiar smile, shaping loss into leverage, and turning heroism into the raw. This is the hidden war written between frames, and its ending has not been decided yet. If this theory ignited new connections in your mind, power up the signal, support the channel, and share this dive into Marvel's darkest secret. Subscribe for more multiversal breakdowns, because Story of Doom begins.